this exam 4 really gets into blood clotting, into the blood clotting area. So we haven't covered any of that. And there's, and you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. Okay, now then, let me just come on down right here. Vascular constriction, we already talked about that. And I probably won't have much on that at all. It's just a reflex where the smooth muscle in the wall of the artery kind of constricts. You know, and it helps a little bit, but you got to understand that none of this stuff is worth a diddly squat if a major artery, I mean a major artery, like if an aortic aneurysm ruptures, this stuff doesn't mean doodly squat. Or if there's somebody cuts their wrist, you know, a major artery, or say a throat is cut with a carotid artery, or something. I heard of somebody one time telling me about a kid who was skateboarding, been years ago, not skateboarding, but on a surfing type deal, on a surfboard. And evidently this thing was real sharp, something flipped and cut him, right in Galveston, cut his throat, cut his carotid. They got him up to John Seeley, the kid bled to death. I don't know all the details on it, but a major blood vessel being cut, severed, I mean, you know, that blood is coming out like that. So right here, Bo, the blood, this vascular restriction on a small artery may reduce the blood for a while, but you know that plays a role in certain situations. But we get to really more serious stuff right here: plug formation. Steps in the formation of the plug are, remember, there's going to be, I said there's going to be ARA platelet what? Adhesion, release reaction, and aggregation. All right, so steps are as follows like this. Here we go. Platelet adhesion, ARA. All right, and platelet adhesion, there will be something on your test about von Willebrand. And let me just mention, you know, I'll show you a diagram of this in a few minutes. There's the von Willebrand disease where that protein is lacking, and it's a mild bleeding disease. But the von Willebrand is a protein produced by what? Endothelial cells. Now, what is the endothelium? What is endothelium? Y'all remember that in 2401? What is endothelium? What is the inner lining of a blood vessel, isn't it? Isn't that the endothelium? All right, so it's produced. Now, don't forget what endothelial cells are. The lining of the blood vessel. The inner lining of the blood vessel is the endothelium. And so produced by endothelium. And VWF, I start to say VFW. Veterans of foreign wars. The VWF, von Willebrand, forms a bridge between collagen and the platelet. Collagen where? The damaged vessel exposes collagen. The damaged vessel exposes collagen. All right, and the von Willebrand, and I just make a note down here off of Google. Von Willebrand disease is an autosomal dominant heredity, most common inherited bleeding disease. And I've had a patient, a student or two, who have talked about heard of von Willebrand disease, but it's not. Most people don't know about it, haven't heard of it. But it about frequently in 1 in 1,000 individuals. I think it's pretty mild, but still, it is an issue. All right. So anyway, platelet adhesion. What causes adhesion? The von Willebrand factor. What is the von Willebrand factor? A protein produced by what? Endothelial cells, and it allows platelets to adhere to the endothelial lining. All right, and then right here, release. Platelets become activated when they bind to collagen. All right, now here's the deal. Now here you kind of have an idea of this. I know you're going to have to work on it, but just remember adhesion, ARA, adhesion, release, and then the last A is aggregation, ARA. And so I just kind of go through this a little bit with you. Any of you have that book by Seeley, Stevens, and Tate? Does anybody have that book in here? Nobody, okay, you do. All right, I used him a lot for this in the years past. So if you have Seeley, Stevens, and Tate book at home, platelets become activated after they bind to collagen and they release ADP. Now, what is ADP? Y'all know what that stands for? Yeah, you do. What's ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. What's ADP? Adenosine diphosphate. ADP, and some chemicals known as thromboxanes. Now, here's the deal. Here's what aspirin, as some of the old folks in the country used to say, come in store, Mr. Lewis, where's the aspirines? You know, they say aspirin instead of aspirin. This is what aspirin does. It interferes with a which I'll go over in a minute, with a prostaglandin, which is a hormone-like structure that's involved in the production of thromboxanes. This is what aspirin does. So one of these factors, they bind and they release ADP and thromboxanes. And aspirin interferes with the production of these thromboxanes, and this aggregation, the last phase of this in the platelet plug, won't take place. It's reduced. So people that take aspirin, it's actually going to interfere with the third phase of platelet plug formation. Actually going to interfere with the release of these thromboxanes. And these thromboxanes are necessary in the aggregation to form a plug. And so we really talk about that when we talk about anticoagulants, Coumadin, and when we talk about AFib, atrial fibrillation, and these blood clots that can form. And it's very important, very serious. These chemicals, see, these chemicals cause platelets to stick together. Aspirin interferes with that. Aspirin interferes with what? Actually, you back up. Aspirin's going to interfere with the production of thromboxane. And the thromboxane and the ATP combined, they are much involved in the platelets sticking together. And so they don't stick together, and that's the platelet plug. And that's what the aspirin does. And so, you know, that's the idea there on that thing. We'll go back over that. Platelet aggregation. All right, activated platelets are going to change shapes. They're going to have fibrinogen receptor sites on them. What is fibrinogen? You know, y'all don't know what fibrinogen is yet, do you? Fibrinogen is a protein produced by the liver. Fibrinogen is a blood clotting protein produced by the liver. For blood to clot, fibrinogen has to be changed to fibrin. All right, fibrinogen has to be changed to fibrin, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But activated platelets, they're going to change shape, they're going to expose, and that's going to be, say, fibrinogen receptor sites. And that's exactly what that'll say. Expresses fibrinogen and expressed or exposed fibrinogen receptor sites that bind to fibrinogen, bind to fibrinogen. And I'll tell you right here, fibrinogen is a plasma protein produced by the liver. It's produced by the liver. Many of these things are produced by the liver. All right. So now let's show. The platelet fibrinogen complex, and that's just going to say, is responsible for the platelet plug. The platelet fibrinogen complex is responsible. Okay, we start over. What do we have? We have platelet. We have adhesion, release, aggregation. Adhesion, von Willebrand. Platelets adhere to the endothelial lining. Platelets adhere. As they adhere, they become activated and release who? These chemicals, these various chemicals like ADP and thromboxanes. Now, also, as they release, as they release these, they become activated. As they activate, they change shapes. They expose fibrinogen receptor sites. What is fibrinogen? A plasma protein. And the plasminogen then, the plasminogen particles with the receptor sites, they cause the platelets to really start building up, like a domino. They start snowballing. That forms a platelet plug. Now, if that's in a small vessel, like if that's in a small vessel, like in a coronary artery, and that platelet plug happens, that can be a heart attack, a thrombus, a clot. Or if somebody is suffering from AFib, and the atria are kind of doing, and all the blood is kind of pooling, it clots. If it clots, then say a blood clot goes from the right atrium to the right ventricle, out the pulmonary artery, to the lungs. It could be a pulmonary embolism. It can cause death. All right. So if a person's taking, how many of you know someone or known someone taking Coumadin? All right, one or two of you? Yeah, okay. Coumadin, and the Coumadin, they'll do PT time, prothrombin time. We'll talk about that later.